I think the Isle of Man is as close to perfect as a modern, multicultural, democratic, multi-faith society can possibly be. Let me try and explain. Hello YouTube and welcome to a lovely, sunny July day on the Isle of Man. It's actually Tynwald Day. Well, Tynwald Day was at the weekend, but every time Tynwald Day falls on a weekend, they do the celebration, the whole hoo-ha on the hill on the Monday. So this is that Monday. I'm not at St. John's, I'm not doing Tynwald Hill. I've done it plenty of times in the past. I think I showed it to you on video. No real need for me to be there, and I'm not a big fan of the current administration anyway, so I'm not really wanting to go there and celebrate their non-achievements. So I'll skip that for today and instead record a video that was on my mind for a long time, that I actually have recorded before and somehow didn't use. So I think the Isle of Man is, in today's day and age, as close to perfect as a democratic society can be. And it is also a strange place where, if you look at the whole world, right? The whole world at the moment seems to be going to hell in a handbasket real quick. Doesn't matter where you look. USA, it's, fighting and trouble and chaos and controversy. Europe is, on the brink, left versus right. UK is, total chaos. The biggest economic driver we have at the moment is actually people moving from the UK to the Isle of Man, trying to escape and bringing their companies and themselves. That seriously is the biggest import we have at the moment. It's not looking good in the world. So how come, when the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket, this little island, seemingly, is doing so well? It's still quiet, still peaceful, clean, low crime, low tax. Everyone's friendly, getting on with each other. Why can we do it? And literally just across the water, where it's also Britain, we call it the island. We don't call it the mainland. This is the mainland. So how come the island across the water there, how come the lot in London can't do what our lot here in Douglas are doing and create a harmonious society where everything just works, where everyone just gets on with each other? Because it seems to still work here. The Isle of Man is not perfect. Far from, okay? We have crime, we have problems, we have homelessness, we have drugs. We have all that stuff, and it seems to be on the rise, and some of the bad things from the UK seem to be coming here, which is not good. Some of it done by politicians, like, bringing these 20-mile-an-hour zones in, lunatics that they are. And I'm not against road safety, but that was just stupid the way they did it. Typical Isle of Man. But how come, it's still relatively, compared to the UK, we're still doing well. People are still moving here because it is the better UK. So how come we can do that and they can't? And I think it's down to 3 points why. And I'm going to try and explain them to you. I'm not claiming that they are fact. I want your opinion on this, because I know a lot of you watch my channel, you live here, or you're either interested in moving here, or the crazy ones amongst you have already moved here after watching my videos. And I'm sure at some point in the future I will get a class action lawsuit of all the people who moved here after watching my videos, and then they want their money back for false advertising. No, it's all good. I've met loads of you. I love it that my videos are useful. But I'm not claiming this is fact. I really want your comments, your feedback. So give me a few minutes of your time. I'll try and speed this up. Famous last words, I know, I never do. But give me a few minutes of your time and let me know if you agree, or if I'm missing something, or if there's something, completely different here. So I think it's 3 things that make this place work. Number 1, we have our own way of doing things. And with that, I mean, we have our own laws, our own rules, our own regulations. We have our own parliament, Tynwald, 1,000 years old. It's the oldest continuous parliament in the world. And it's also living proof that trying to get a good parliament in 1,000 years doesn't mean you're going to succeed. The current parliament is absolute rubbish. But, it is our own. It gives us a sort of, we're not independent, but we're a crown dependency, so we have a little bit of say. Starmer isn't the prime minister. We have Alf Cannon, who's, many would say, I think the nicest way to describe him is he's unremarkable. I think is the nicest way I could say it. But we have a certain autonomy to do our own rules, and these rules, of course, govern work permits, govern who can come here, who can work here, and govern things like benefits. So, for example, when I moved here 25 years ago, under the old rules still, so I have permanent residency under the old rules. But when I moved here in August of 2000, pretty much exactly like 30 days out from my 25th anniversary here. Not sure if I should celebrate or cry. I needed a work permit. I came here to work in a hotel, in the Penta and Regency hotels down on the Prom, which are still owned by the same German guy who owned them back then. And that was my first career before e-gaming. I came here to work in a hotel, which was owned by a German. He preferred to hire Germans because he thought Manx are lazy. His opinion, not mine. And back in 2000 was different times. But back then, you needed a work permit for pretty much anything if you weren't from here. They were very protective of the Manx population. And that changed over time a little bit because they realized we need more people coming here, and requiring work permit for complex skills and trades and professionals that simply aren't here in the number needed is a bit counterproductive. So they relaxed it a bit. It is much more relaxed these days. But I will dig out an old work permit and show it to you. And you still need them for certain things. Then you also need, you need your visa and things to come here. So we have our own rules. It's tied to the UK, of course. But we have our own sort of rules and regulations who can come here and live here. But maybe most importantly to this part and to some of the things that are happening in Europe, specifically I think Germany and the UK are good examples, we have limitations on who can claim benefits here. So if you are in the UK in your council house and everything's crap, and you really don't fancy working, not bad-mouthing people, but just as an example, okay? And you're like, I fancy a bit of a change, Liverpool's a bit boring, let's hop over to the Isle of Man, it's nicer. Grab the kids, grab my benefits book and hop over there and get the same. The answer is going to be no. You cannot get benefits here for the first 5 years. And you cannot even get on the housing list until you've been here as a resident for 10 years. Having said that, they recently put in a Freedom of Information request, and it turned out that the Isle of Man government made some exceptions. So a few people got benefits and got a house without qualifying. It was a very low number. And hard as it may be, I do trust that the decision makers in this, because I have absolutely zero confidence in this government at all, but I do have to trust that the decision makers of this did it for a good reason. And it wasn't massive numbers. It wasn't a low, I'll dig out the news article and show you. But generally, when you move here, even from the UK, even if you're British, you don't get any benefits. You have to contribute first before you get anything out. That, I think, is a big part of, the big rule that plays a big part in the culture, the atmosphere. Everyone who moves here, and all the guys I spoke to, you guys who contacted me after watching my videos, they come here to contribute. Many of you come here to work, to move your businesses here. Or, of course, many of you come here to retire and you don't need to work. You have your own money. You sell your house wherever you are, you buy a house here, you live happily ever after. Cool, fair enough. But people come here with a different, mindset, with a different expectation. The expectation is that you have to, first of all, contribute before you get anything out. I think that is a huge, huge bonus, positive to the type of immigration we get. Now there have been controversies, and it now says, a lot of the migration that comes here costs us more than it benefits the island. But I think overall we need migration here, and we do control it so that we get the right type of migration. So point number one is we have our own rules. Point number two is we enforce them, because rules are no good if you don't enforce them. And there's no better example for this than my second home, the Philippines, where, my wife is from the Philippines. We have a place there. I love the country very, very much. I used to live there for a few years before returning here. I'm a resident in the Isle of Man. But I do spend a lot of time in the Philippines. And the Philippines is a beautiful country. But the best way someone described it to me once is the Philippines is not a poor country, it's a poorly managed country. And nowhere do you see that more than when you look at all the laws and regulations the Philippines has. If you go by those, it has everything: Anti-Corruption Act, Clean Air Act, it has all the things. In theory, on paper, the Philippines should be a first world country rivaling Singapore or Hong Kong or London. UK is a bad example these days, but you know what I mean. It should be like Switzerland, okay? Clean, on time, perfect. In practice, of course, the Philippines is a little bit, it's got character, okay? Let's put it that way. I love the country very, very much. I don't want to say anything bad about it. But it has its issues, and those issues arise because all these regulations that are there are not being enforced properly. There is still corruption, there are still problems, you know, and if you can skip all these regulations, then of course they're not worth the paper they're written on. So my point is, if you have rules and you don't enforce them, those rules are worthless. Which is sort of some of the argument we're bringing now with the 20-mile-an-hour thing they want to bring in here. Unless you bring in speed cameras, it's absolutely pointless. And of course we don't want speed cameras. The last time they tried and bring a speed camera here, it lasted, ooh, that's nice. It lasted, I think, 3 days. They put one up in Balav like 20 years ago. It lasted 3 days, then someone put a tire over it and set it on fire. And that was the end of it. I'm not saying you should do that, but you know, without enforcement, it's not worth it. So, point 2 is, we have the rules and we enforce them. And over here, with some things they are too strict. With some things they're maybe not strict enough. So for example, with certain substances that I cannot mention without angering the YouTube algorithm, I think sometimes they are a little bit too strict. Now with the Class A stuff, no doubt, if you dabble in that, you deserve anything that's coming. And the sentences you get for that kind of stuff here, if you are an entrepreneur dabbling in the sort of Class A illegal substances, you're going down for a long time, and I think that's right. You know, that stuff destroys lives, and they have zero tolerance here. I mean, you get massive, massive prison sentences, and good, that's good. But with some of the other bits, well, we could argue, you know, I'd rather have 10 stoners around me than one drunk. But hey, it is what it is. They're very strict here with the rules. We also have some, not really quirky rules, but unique rules. For example, if you are not from here, you come here, you do something naughty, none of us are perfect, you say you steal something or you cause fraud or whatever, and you end up in court, then next to whatever sentence you get, the judge in most cases, or the deemster as we call them here, will also give you an exclusion order. We kick you out if you misbehave. That's something few other countries really do. You know, if Germany did that, it would be a much, much, much nicer place. But here you will see, and I'll dig out a few news articles about it, you will see people being given exclusion orders. You know, that's it. Your life on the island is finished. You literally are put on a boat, one-way ticket, off to Liverpool. Thank you very much. Goodbye. So point 2 is that we do enforce the rules that we have, and that you can get kicked out here if you don't behave. So I think that is also, you know, partially a point that shapes the kind of society we have and how people act. And of course, it is a small place, so, you know, once your reputation here is shot, it's shot. People here don't forget. So, you know, I will forever be known as the councillor who got kicked out for not attending meetings. Doesn't matter what the background was, doesn't matter that Douglas Council behaved like a bunch of incompetent imbeciles. That's what I will be known for, right? The same way that other people are known for other things. It's just the nature of the island, and that also sort of shapes how we act here. So, point 1, we have our own rules. Point 2, we enforce them. Point 3 is a little bit controversial, and no, I'm not going to change this for a MAGA head anytime soon. But I think one of the most important points here is, which causes so much tension in Europe, in the UK, Germany, and so on, especially those two kinds of places. We don't have an asylum system. You cannot come here and claim asylum. Now you're going to go, oh crap, he's right-wing, he's anti-refugees, anti-asylum. I knew it, Frank is the N-word, the other N-word that you get called if you're not left. No. My point is, so the way it works over here is we do not have an asylum system, we do not have asylum laws. There was a guy in the past who, I think it was an Indian guy, who tried to test it. He came here and he filed for asylum. And he said, you know, he went to court here and said, you have to give me asylum, you're part of Britain, I'll force you. And the judges here literally turned around and said, no, we don't have the regulations for it, the UK is responsible for it, and they put him on a boat and kicked him out. I'll see if I find the article. It was quite a while ago when this happened. So we do not have asylum regulations or laws here. You can't just rock up on your dinghy, which would be quite a trek anyway, and claim asylum. Why is that a good thing? Because we don't mix asylum and migration, which is what causes all the tensions in the UK and in Europe, specifically Germany, my lovely home country, which is being destroyed since 2015. It's absolutely wrecked. And all these tensions and things are mainly because of the fact that they are mixing asylum and migration, because those are two very, very different things. And just to be absolutely clear here, I have nothing against asylum seekers. If you are fleeing war, then you should be able to find shelter anywhere. And more importantly here, I have absolutely nothing against economic migrants. None, nada. I have no problem with any of the guys who, and I've lived in Montenegro and we lived in Greece, and I saw the asylum track, that Balkan route firsthand, and I spoke to loads of people there, and I've seen how it functions, how hard that is. This is not a walk in the park. This is really, really dangerous. And all these people who get a lot of hate, who come to the UK in their dinghies looking for a better life and money, they're economic migrants, right? Like all the other ones who walk into Germany and want benefits. I have zero problems with them, with any economic migrant, for one very, very simple reason. I am one. I'm a different type of economic migrant. I was lucky enough to be born on a speck of dirt on this planet that gave me a very powerful passport. So for me, to be an economic migrant is very, very easy. I left my Bavarian hometown 25 years ago to come here looking for a better life, for more money, because I knew if I stayed in Garmisch, where I grew up, I'd forever be stuck in this little town. I needed to get out. I needed to take a risk and go here in this weird out-of-man place that I seen on TV once, had to look up on a map, didn't even know where it was. That looked like a chance, so I took a chance. So I have zero problems with economic migrants, even if they abuse the system. Because you have one life and you need to make the most of it. And if a country is dumb enough to let you abuse the system, good on you. These guys trekked through the whole of the Balkan for loads of countries, which is really dangerous, in search for a better life. It's not their fault. They're doing what they have to do to have a better life. And many of you, of course, who move here are also economic migrants. You're looking for a better life, so you can't really complain. Not that I'm saying you are. So no, the fault in this case is always with the governments who allow this to happen, specifically Germany, of course, where you can just walk across the border and it's almost impossible to kick you back out again. It's the country's fault. It's not the people's fault wanting a better life. So just want to clarify that. I have no problem with asylum seekers or economic migrants. Right, I'm literally just going to Tesco, which is very exciting activity during Tynwald Day, of course. So my third point really is, because we do not mix up asylum seekers and migrants in the way that happens in the UK, in the way that happens in Germany, that causes all these tensions. And that's also, by the way, largely being rejected by the real asylum seekers who don't want to be, put in the same basket as the people who come there for money and a better life. Because we don't mix those two things, we don't have these tensions. You come here for a reason, to have a better life. You need the right visa, you need the right paperwork. You can't just rock up here. Because we don't mix these things, I think that's one of the key things why we don't have these tensions. Maybe a bit of a controversial point, fine. But of course, now you're going to say, hold on a second, Frank. You have asylum seekers, you have refugees, Ukrainians. And you're right, we do. And here's the weird thing. Before Ukraine happened, and this says a lot about the politicians we have as well, before Ukraine happened, someone once brought up, and I think it was in regards to either Syria or Afghanistan or one of those was, I think it was Syria, brought up the idea, someone in parliament brought up the idea in Tynwald that maybe we should take in Syrian refugees, Afghani refugees, people who run from wars, from being bombed. Maybe we should do that. Here's how much they didn't want to talk about it. Not only did they not ever debate any kind of asylum law in government, they refused to debate if they should even debate having one. Seriously, I'll see if I can find the news article. Someone in Tynwald brought it up and wanted to bring in a debate saying, should we talk about maybe having a law? Not talk about the law, talk about maybe we should have one. Maybe it's time we took on a few war refugees from Syria and whatnot. And we look at maybe we could do a law. They refuse to even discuss if they should discuss a law. That's how much they don't want it. Says a lot about the politicians, right or wrong. I think actually it was the right decision, because we are not in a position to do this properly. This government can hardly run a bath, never mind a proper asylum system. And it just wouldn't be in anyone's benefit. The UK is responsible for it here. But you are, of course, right in saying we have Ukrainians. When the Ukraine happened, suddenly this island bent over backwards to take in refugees. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing, it's a totally right thing. If you escape from war and you need shelter and you know people here or anything, come here, be safe. I wouldn't want to be in the Ukraine. I had a colleague in a previous job who was from the Ukraine, and she told me the stories how her parents were hiding in the basement because the Russian tanks were outside and that kind of thing, and that's absolutely horrifying if you see the results, the impact that has on people's lives. And she managed to get them out. She literally went to the Ukraine, grabbed her parents, and they now live in Europe. Insanely brave girl. I wouldn't have, well, I probably, if it's my family, I probably would. You know what you want to do. But my point is, when the Ukraine happened, of course that we take them in. So how come we could do that and not with Libyans? Well, on the legal side, I believe the Ukraine program that we had here is tied to the UK one. So it's not our own rules and regulations that we suddenly brought in, but it's tied to the UK. But maybe more interestingly, here's a question that I will not answer. I will leave that to you to answer. And I think most of us will know the answer if we're being honest to ourselves. How come when Syrians, Iraqis, Afghanis needed refuge, we weren't even willing to talk about if we should have a law to allow that? But when Ukraine came along, everyone here bent over backwards to take them in. You know exactly what I'm going to say, right? And I'm not going to say it. But, it is a question that I think we all know the answer to, or at least part of the answer. Rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying either way. But I do really think that not having this system of mixing migration with asylum over here is what brings the stability in migration, and what means that everyone who really comes here for a purpose, really comes here to first of all contribute. It's not mixed up with people coming here for non-genuine reasons, let's call it that. Because like I said, I have no problem with economic migrants, I am one. But of course it does take out from the society, and because we don't have these rules and you can't just rock up here and get stuff, we don't have any of these issues. So, am I right, am I wrong? My 3 points: we have our own rules, we enforce them, and we don't mix asylum and migration, meaning we have a much more harmonious and organized stream of immigration. And that's all together with the fact that it's a small place and a community-minded place full of very kind people, makes us such an amazing place, makes us much better than the UK. Am I right? Am I wrong? You tell me. This is just my thinking on the issue. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there's something else that I don't know that you are going to tell me. But that's it. I'm now going to go to Tesco, which is not exciting enough to film it. I did one over shopping anyway, right? Maybe I should do another one for cost of living, actually. Would you an update on that one? In the meanwhile, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And also, take to the comments and let me know any videos you want to see from me. I do owe you an update on the negative things about the Isle of Man. I will do that soon, because there's quite a bit to talk about. And there's a couple of other ideas I have. And of course, the Southern 100 is starting. I won't be able to do it tonight probably, but I will be there during the week, bringing some of the action from that. But if there's any other videos you want to see or want me to do on the island, put your ideas in the comments. And of course, as always, if you have questions about the island, about moving here, my contact details are in the description. I'm always happy to help any of you. I've met many great people, made new friends by meeting many of you who are thinking of moving here, already moved here. So that's it for this one. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Enjoy Tin World Day. And I'll see you next time.